What's your name? Can show the badge. Where's the badge?
Where's your bag?
On that day, when passengers and airport employees saw two men trying to detain a woman with a child and declining to identify themselves, several people, including passengers and people who work at the airport, started calling 911 for help.
They're having a commotion.
Oh.
I think the lady doesn't want to go. I don't know. You just send the police over here. Okay.
Okay, you got it. Bye.
America, everybody in that airport was wrong about what they were actually watching. The woman had a federal removal. She missed her immigration hearings and stayed 6 more years. And TSA knew exactly when she'd be at that terminal because they put her on a list for ICE. While Democrats are calling those plainclothes agents kidnappers and writing letters demanding ICE leave airports, TSA has already quietly been feeding ICE the travel schedules for 31,000 people with deportation orders since January 20th, 2025. Day one, 14 months until April 2026, that number of arrests has been 800. And the left is having a full meltdown. Good.
Democrats have held up funding for Homeland Security while demanding a change in rules governing its operations after ICE agents shot and killed 2 U.S. citizens, sparking public outrage.
What is up, guys? Tyson here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me break this down in plain English language because the media made it sound incredibly complicated, and it's not. In 2007, TSA created a program called Secure Flight. The original job of Secure Flight was to run every passenger's name against the no-fly list and terrorism watch list. It's a very admirable program, right? This is standard. Every time that you book a flight, your name goes into that system. On January 20th, 2025, Trump's first day back in office, that program had a second job. ICE started sending TSA a list of people with active deportation orders. These were not random people who had already been through the immigration court and had active deportation orders. They stood in front of a judge. They lost. They have been ordered out of the country. Removal proceedings. TSA ran those names against every passenger booking a flight that week. Match found. TSA called ICE. ICE went to the airport. 14 months, 31,000 matches, 800 arrests. All that happened while Democrats were screaming about chaos.
TSA has been sending lists of upcoming passengers several times a week to ICE since March. So for several months, only we're just now hearing about it. ICE then cross-checks those names against its own immigration databases and deploys agents to detain people it says are subject to deportation. Now, DHS is now defending the program, saying it's routine information sharing inside one department, nothing new, and framing it as a reversal of what it calls a Biden-era policy.
DHS said it publicly. This isn't a shadow operation here. A federal agency using existing technology to enforce court-ordered deportations. You guys, this is absolutely common sense. The people shocked were the ones who weren't paying attention, which is exactly where Democrats wanted to stay. Now, here's the part that makes this story completely flip. Remember when I told you about the TSA agents? They were selling plasma. They were sleeping in their car, getting second gigs, driving Uber because Democrats wouldn't fund DHS. While all this was happening, those same agents were running Secure Flight every single day, feeding ICE the names. They were feeding them the names, getting the people right at the terminal. Democrats left them without a paycheck for 51 plus days, and they kept working the program anyways. America first, baby.
Even though TSA workers are getting paid once again, the Department of Homeland Security is still not funded. The shutdown has lasted 51 days at this point, and so this proposal is particularly relevant. Here's what the Trump administration is putting forward as part of the 2027 budget. A cut of around $52 million to TSA and requiring smaller airports to enroll in what's called the Screening Partnership Program. Right now, that is a voluntary program under which TSA pays for and supervises private screeners at designated airports. During the partial shutdown, some lawmakers have pointed to airports that are already part of that program, like San Francisco, Orlando, and Kansas City.
The same party that left those agents without a check for 51 days is the same exact party screaming about airport chaos that they actually caused. The agents were running the most effective interior immigration enforcement operation this country has ever seen in years, on the clock. Unpaid, on the clock and unpaid. And Democrats had no idea. That is what was running underneath. Now, let me show you what Biden accidentally handed Trump and made the whole program work even better. This is the part of the story that is genuinely funny to think about. Under Biden, his administration created the CBP One app. You guys remember that? The original pitch was scheduling asylum appointments at the border. And then they expanded it so illegal hombres, illegal aliens could use the app as an ID to board domestic flights. No passport required for the El Hombres. No real ID required for the El Hombres. An app on your phone. Illegal aliens were flying city to city through American airports with a government-created app. That was the official Joey Biden administration policy here. Secretary Kristi Noem reversed that back in February 2025. That was one of her first acts and announced it publicly. The moment the CBP One app stopped working as a boarding ID, something absolutely changed. People with deportation orders who had been moving freely through airports now had to get real documents. They had to get real documents to run through Secure Flight. And Secure Flight is cross-referencing ICE deportation lists. Biden built the runway. Trump used it for takeoff.
A new policy from the Trump administration is putting a stop to it. The TSA posted the changes on X, announcing the app will no longer be used to bypass typical security protocol for U.S. citizens of showing a valid ID. At least 60,000 migrants have flown using the app. Many migrants look to travel by plane to reach sponsors or desired cities while awaiting the next step in their asylum process. Now the CBP One app has been updated and is called the CBP Go app. Under the new TSA directive, migrants without ID will only be allowed to board flights if the agency can confirm the travel is for self-deportation purposes.
Self-deportation purposes only. Underline it, you guys. That was the only acceptable reason to board a flight without an ID. When the homie pulls up, hey, fool, I'm going home. I want to go home, Mayway. I want to go home, Missy. I want to go back home. And they got a bonus to go home. If you're leaving, which is the correct outcome, Biden gave them free domestic movement so El Hombres could go El Home. Trump reversed the policy and used the same infrastructure to locate them. Now, here's how the New York Times reporter who broke the original story described what TSA and ICE were doing. And guys, I want you to pay attention to the word that he chose.
We found no indication that this type of information sharing happened in prior administrations, at least in furtherance of arrests taking place at American airports. But as far as whether or not it's a surprise, I mean, the Trump administration is really trying to bring together all these federal agencies and share as much information as possible from not only DHS, but as we've seen from IRS, to be able to locate and detain and ultimately deport undocumented immigrants. And I think this is just one of those programs. But as we've seen with videos like this, it's a very dramatic scene in some of these arrests.
Dramatic. Queen, it's dramatic up in here. Okay, dramatic. He called the enforcement of a 2019 federal removal order a dramatic scene, Queen. Okay, federal immigration judge signed that removal order. ICE enforced it. The only drama was a crowd at the airport that didn't understand what a removal order means. It means you get to go El Home. And while that quote unquote dramatic scene was playing out, this is what a Democratic congresswoman was focused on.
I mean, he is completely unhinged and unwell. And when I think about our service members whose lives are being put on the line by this deranged president, our national security that is at risk. I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old, the future that they are going to have, because he is unwinding a century of policies that have brought the longest stability and peace in the world and completely dismantling our standing in the world. So I'm horrified.
This woman had zero concern about 800 people with court-ordered deportations flying freely through American airports. Zero, absolutely none. Her concern is tax brackets. Meanwhile, her own party left TSA agents without checks for 51 plus days while calling the airports an absolute disaster. They caused the disaster, and then they're complaining about it. TSA fixed it anyways. The left, obviously, you guys, described every single one of those arrests as a tragedy. So let me show you what tragedies actually look like on paper. The media covered every one of these airports arrests with maximum sympathy. The sympathy level was up to a 10 with, get this, minimum context. And I'll give you context here. The San Francisco airport situation that went nuclear viral, the woman on the floor, crowd screaming, people calling 911. That was Angelina Lopez Jimenez. Her removal order was issued in 2019. She had an immigration hearing. A judge ordered her to be removed. She stayed 6 more years. TSA matched her name on a flight manifest. ICE showed up. This is the system working exactly as it's designed. An immigration attorney told news outlets about an Irish couple who lived in America for over 20 years, arrested at a Florida airport while flying to New York, their 2 children left behind. Attorneys described it as heartbreaking. Both adults had final orders of removal on file. Both had been through the immigration process. Both were ordered out. If the process here, you guys, produces a result and that result is never enforced, that is not a process. That is theater.
According to a DHS statement, the immigration agents were trying to detain Angelina Lopez Jimenez and her daughter. They had a removal order from 2019. According to the New York Times, the Transportation Security Administration tipped off immigration agents that they were scheduled on a flight from SFO to Florida that day. Lopez Jimenez and her daughter are now in Guatemala.
A crowd at an airport almost infuriated with a 2019 federal removal order. SFPD was told to stand down. ICE did its job. She's in Guatemala. That's not a tragedy. That is a federal judge being respected 6 years late. Now, here's the one, you guys, that the university union decided to turn into a protest.
A graduate student in the information school was detained last night at SeaTac with his 13-year-old child.
Union President Natalie Wellen says agents detained Orwa and his son at the airport Tuesday.
By 12:20 p.m. was already boarded onto a flight.
That flight departed for Amsterdam at 1:45 this afternoon. Orwa is originally from Kenya and not Amsterdam.
Delta is putting our union member on a flight to Amsterdam on short notice and collaborating with ICE to make this happen.
Wellen says as soon as the union heard the news, they mobilized quickly, gathering outside of the Delta ticketing counter.
No explanation. His visa was rescinded. That is an explanation. The federal government reviewed his legal status and removed his authorization to be here. The UAW union marched to a Delta ticketing counter over a legally rescinded visa. The TSA secure flight system worked. The union doesn't write immigration law. And then there's this take on the 800 arrests that I need you to hear because it represents exactly how the opposition wants you to think about federal court orders.
Be careful with this headline. Yes, it sounds alarming, but out of 31,000 tips, ICE picked up 800 people at the nation's airports. Now, why would they do that? Well, sometimes there are things called final orders of removal, meaning an individual has been through the entire immigration process, had their day in court, a decision was made by an immigration judge, and they need to be removed from the U.S. Sometimes those individuals don't leave, and in situations like airports, ICE certainly has the right and the authority to do so. Be careful with these headlines. ICE has always been in airports, bus stations, probably will always be. Not with this volume, but just be careful with headlines like this and read the whole story.
I'll tell you what actually deserves caution here. Letting people with court order removals book domestic flights freely for many, many years. That is the thing that should make you nervous, not the enforcement. Democrats didn't just miss the program running for 14 months. When the visible part came out, they tried to destroy it from every angle. Let me show you. On March 21st and 22nd, 2026, Trump announced ICE would be deployed visibly to airports. Within days, more than 48 House Democrats signed a letter to DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen demanding ICE leave immediately. They said the presence would cause confusion and fear. The Secure Flight program had been running since January 20th, 2025. 31,000 names already matched. Most of the 800 arrests already done. The Democrats wrote the letter to stop something that had been working for 14 months prior before they ever picked up a pen. But obviously, guys, we know this party. They aren't just writing letters. Watch what Mullen said that they were doing to the agents themselves.
And they went into their place of worship where they thought they might be at. They went into their hotels. They went into the restaurants. What are you going to do? Expose their faces so you can intimidate their families? What we want is ICE to be able to do their job.
And simultaneously called the agents the lawless ones. Gavin Newsom had said that ICE was the president's lawless, untrained personal police force while his people were at the hotel door. J.B. Pritzker called it chaos and installing fear. Both governors were screaming about visible enforcement while the invisible program had already been running for almost over a year. They missed the whole thing. And now Mullen has an answer for those governors who want to play sanctuary politics with federal airports.
If they're a sanctuary city, should they really be processing customs into their city? I'm going to have to be forced to make hard decisions. Who's willing to work with us and partner with us?
Newsom called ICE lawless. Mullen's response is to ask whether Los Angeles International should get a full customs processing if California fights federal law at every turn. That is the exact right question. Partnership goes both ways. And here's what Trump said publicly about ICE at airports before the secure flight data even came out.
Trump said in a social media post that the activities of ICE agents at airports would include, quote, the immediate arrest of all illegal immigrants who have come into our country.
The left called it unconstitutional. Of course they did. TSA was doing it quietly for 14 months before the post even got posted. The only difference between the two was visibility. America, here's the sentence nobody in mainstream media assembled for you. Democrats defunded DHS for 51 plus days, specifically to stop immigration enforcement. During those same 51 days, TSA agents who hadn't seen a paycheck in weeks were still running secure flight, still sending ICE the names that needed to be sent. The chaos Democrats pointed to, the long lines, the agents calling out, the airport crisis, all of that happened while the enforcement program that they were trying to kill ran uninterrupted underneath. They handed Trump the airport in 2021 when they created CBP-1 and let illegal aliens fly through an app from their phone. Noam reversed that day one. She converted that same system into a tracking mechanism. TSA converted a terrorism watch list into a deportation tool. And I showed up at the right gate at the right time 800 times. Newsom called it lawless. J.B. Pritzker called it chaos. 40 Democrats wrote a letter. A university union marched to the ticket counter. A creator told you to be careful about 800 arrests. Meanwhile, the agents they left without paychecks were doing the work that you couldn't see. That's the whole story. And the left still doesn't know it. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.